Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. God has given us unlimited treasures in His Word. Every time we open it, we can discover a new treasure or admire an old one. What will we find today? Here's Carla Early with Treasure Hunt in the Word.
When young adults go off to college or go out on their own in the working world, they inevitably come to a crisis of faith when they have to decide for themselves, do I follow the Lord or the culture? I remember that moment in my life when a friend challenged me. That's what your parents say, but what do you believe? Isaac had that crisis of faith when his father Abraham died. Then he had to decide if his father's God was his God and if he would trust him with everything. Let's read what happened from Genesis 26, 1-5. There was a famine in the land besides the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went to Abimelech, king of the Philistines, in Gerar. Then the Lord appeared to him and said, do not go down to Egypt. Live in the land which I shall tell you. Dwell in this land, and I will be with you and bless you. For to you and your descendants I give all these lands, and I will perform the oath which I swore to Abraham your father. And I will make your descendants multiply as the stars of heaven, and I will give you descendants all these lands, and in your seed all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. Because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. When Abraham experienced a famine, he had gone to Egypt. The Nile was the source of life when all around remained desert, so it seemed the natural place for people to go during a famine. But God came to Isaac and said, don't go to Egypt. Isaac then had to decide to follow God or do what seemed right and natural in his culture. Sometimes things that seem natural to us aren't necessarily good for us, like accepting a job promotion or getting a second job when you're low on money or finding a babysitter and going back to work. Sometimes things that seem natural and right to us might be a crutch to keep us from depending on God. So we have to be careful to consult the Lord with every decision, big or small. Those were just a few of the ones that I've had in my life. You probably have had different ones. The Lord wanted Isaac to stay in the promised land, and Isaac listened to him. Verse 6 says, so Isaac dwelt in Gerar. He didn't go to Egypt. In this direction from the Lord to stay put, he also officially transferred the promises he'd given to Abraham to Isaac. Specifically that he would give his descendants the land, multiply them, and bless the nations through them. Why? Verse 5 says, because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. It wasn't because of anything Isaac did, but because Abraham had loved and obeyed God. Isn't that a beautiful legacy? God blesses our children when we love and obey Him too. Unfortunately, Isaac inherited more from his father than the promises. He inherited Abraham's fear, and he dealt with it in the same way Abraham had. Starting in verse 7, it says, the men of the place asked about his wife, and he said, she is my sister, for he was afraid to say she was my wife, because he thought, lest the men of the place kill me for Rebekah, because she is beautiful to behold. Now it came to pass, when he'd been there a long time, that Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked through the window and saw, and there was Isaac showing endearment to his wife Rebekah. Then Abimelech called Isaac and said, quite obviously she is your wife, so how could you say she's my sister? Isaac said to him, because I said lest I die on account of her. And Abimelech said, what is this you've done to us? One of the people might soon have lain with your wife, and you would have brought guilt on us. So Abimelech charged all his people, saying, he who touches this man or his wife shall surely be put to death. What have you learned from your parents? Maybe a lot of good stuff, but mixed in may have been some bad habits, character flaws, life patterns, or unrighteous attitudes. Growing up, I know I picked up some of my parents' not so admirable traits, which I won't enumerate here. Some of these God has called me out on, like He did here with Isaac. What positive and negative things have you inherited from your parents? Which positive traits would you like to pass on to your children? Which negative traits do you need to refine to make your habits and attitudes line up with biblical teaching?
You can contact us at treasurehuntintheword@gmail.com. We'd love to hear the treasures God has given you through His Word. You can listen to other episodes on our website, which you can find in the description below. Thank you for listening, and remember, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.